Hello, in this video today I'll be teaching some tips and tricks to new and experienced Apex Legends players. This advice will help all players alike become hopefully better players and have higher chances of winning. Through the popularity of this game, I've seen several videos that attempt to do the same thing. However, the advice is sometimes quite obvious and it's quite easy to understand these tips by yourself just through playing. I want to share some of my tips through this video and my personal experience in this game along with the advice of other people. Okay, so going into the first piece of advice in this game, and probably one of the most important, is deciding where you want to jump. Now, when you want to dive, you generally want to go somewhere that's unpopulated unless you're feeling lucky. When you want to dive and go for distance, however, this usually isn't possible as your character will usually make it only halfway through. Now, if you really want to go for distance and you really want to get to the other side of the map, you want to use this technique that I like to call the dolphin dive. What this requires is your character to dive down until it reaches 140 kilometers per hour, and then you want to dive straight up so you gain that momentum, sort of like a plane gliding. Okay, so let's see this in example. We can see that our teammate here is trying to go for distance, so he's going forward. Now we're going to break off from him and we're going to try to use the dolphin technique. So we're diving straight down until we get to around 140 kilometers per hour, and then we're diving straight up. So as you can see, we're actually covering a lot more distance than our teammate. I'm actually making it a lot further, and you generally want to keep doing this like an up and downwards motion. So hence the dolphin dive. And you can see we're able to make it all the way across the other side of the map, and our teammate is left behind. So if you want to make it quite far, then I recommend using this technique. Okay, so here's another quick piece of advice. This doesn't really apply to map jumping, but if you find ultimate accelerant, you generally want to give it to Lifeline. This is because if they can get enough accelerant so they can call in drops, then your team will be able to keep calling in these drops if you keep picking up ultimate accelerant, so you can get more drops and get more high tier loot.
New kill leader appointed.
Okay, so going into my next bit of advice, it's always important to know where the enemy is, so a good way to indicate where they are, sort of, in a kind of different way, is kind of using the zip line to indicate where they've last been. So if you see the zipline wobble, then you know that there's been an enemy on it if your teammate hasn't been on it. So let's see, for example, if my teammate gets on the zipline and then jumps off, the zipline does wobble for a little bit, so you can see if the enemy has recently used it. Usually it lasts for around 3 to 4 seconds. Another bit of advice is that if Pathfinder puts down the zipline, it won't produce this wobble. It would only be for the ziplines that are naturally spawned in the world. So if you want to know if the enemies have recently been on a zipline, then I guess it doesn't hurt to check, but you never know.
Good job.
Okay, so my next piece of advice relates to the type of body armor in this game. Now, if you've been playing this game for a while, then there's a fairly high chance that you've come across the legendary armor, or the yellow armor that you see on dead bodies, or if you find on a crate drop. Now, it's important to know that there actually isn't a physical difference between the purple body armor and gold body armor, or legendary, because they actually both take the same amount of damage. So that means that the purple body shield and the legendary gold body shield actually don't have that much difference in terms of actual body armor. However, where we do see the difference is the abilities that the legendary body armor and accessories have. So okay, so the legendary body armor will allow you to regenerate shield if you complete a finisher. That being said, finishers do take a while to complete, so you do want to be careful when doing this. The legendary helmet allows the headshot damage to be reduced to your own head, so I guess in a sense it does have more body armor than the purple helmet, but it also allows you to regenerate your ultimate ability faster, so this will be useful in several situations. the legendary backpack allows you to heal with items 50% faster, so that means you can quickly pop a shield or a syringe quickly in the battlefield when you're in a tense situation. And the knockdown shield allows you to actually regenerate your own health, as you may know. However, this does take around 30 seconds, and usually I'm never able to be successful with it because I'm usually found by the enemies and killed in the process. Okay, so my next piece of advice is quite important, and it's to know that you can actually still do a lot when you're knocked down. So if you are knocked down in a situation where your teammates are still up, you should always ping your enemy's targets. And you do that by pressing RB on the Xbox controller. I'm not exactly sure how you do it on PC or PlayStation 4. I'm guessing it's R1. So you want to keep spamming the location so your teammates know their exact whereabouts. Also, you can interact with doors, so it's good if you want to hide from enemies or go into a safe spot where your teammates can revive them. So yeah, just keep pinging their targets and your teammates should know exactly where they are and hopefully finish them off before they are. As I previously mentioned advice about the legendary body armor, there are also some legendary attachments, namely the digital threat scope, which allows you to actually see through smoke. This would be useful in a situation where your teammate is playing as Bangalore and they put down smoke where you're in a close quarters situation and you can see the enemies through the smoke. These enemies will be highlighted in red so you will be able to easily see where they are. So that's a tip of advice if you want to pick up the digital threat. Okay, so my last piece of advice is quite important when it comes to the end game. So if your team is quite disadvantaged in terms of firepower or manpower in the final circle, then you generally want to play it safe. So what I mean is you want to avoid engagement when there's like around 2 other squads left, and generally you want to wait till they fight it out, and as soon as you see the squads left go down to 2, you want to engage them, because that means that's when they're at their weakest point, so you can just rush in and finish them off. Although this doesn't really work all the time, you just have to be lucky with it, and it doesn't really apply to many situations. So just in case if you get into that scenario, you could use that. So those are some of the more useful tips that I've been using in Apex Legends so far to help me become more successful in the game, and it may not help you as much. To everyone it will help to a varying degree, but thank you for watching and I'll see you next time.